Awesome. Today we are going to talk about cheat meals. That was something that was brought up that there's a little confusion around, when it comes to cheat meals. Should you have them? How often should you have them? How do you structure them? What do they look like exactly? And I want to make sure that you guys have no anxiety around food, cheat meals, or anything else. So that is exactly what we are going to discuss today. So without further ado, I'm going to actually pull up. Yeah, I made a presentation, so get excited for this one. Um, Oops, here we go. Present. All right, so cheat meals, how to use them and why. So the first thing that I want you guys to know is like, where did cheat meals even originate from? Because in theory, like, why are we even having a cheat meal? Like, what are we cheating on? Like, I don't like negative, verbiage in general. So what exactly are we cheating on? If we're cheating on our diet, then we have a poor relationship with our diet. And that's the kind of the way I always look at, cheat meals in general, is because like you have such a strict diet that you need to break free and go enjoy the foods that you really want actually. So instead what I like to do is typically have those foods in my diet, and they're hitting a goals, they're serving a purpose. Okay? So they came from diet culture. They actually came from bodybuilding, because bodybuilders would have cheat meals, quote unquote, to break away from the monotony of having such a strict meal plan that they're following day in and day out. When you Google cheat day, The Rock comes up a lot, and he's got like the most infamous cheat meals in the world. Another thing too is like when you guys look at The Rock, well, that dude is literally like working 24/7. He works out every day, super intensely. He's going hard all the time. So for him, it's just kind of like his body making sure that he's not losing muscle and not losing, too much fat, and like he's able to recover and repair. So his cheat meals are, from a very, very high level. So if you are stressed like crazy and you're working out for an hour and a half and you're like lifting super heavy and you need that recovery and repair, yeah, you should have a cheat meal every once in a while where you're not tracking it and you're going like above and beyond and over, doing it, because, his schedule, he might not be able to eat for, hours on end. When shooting or on set. That's coming from like his perspective of what I've heard. Okay. So are they things that you want to have but have been told you shouldn't for some reason? So for instance, if you're like following Weight Watchers and like there's a food that is like a high point meal, there's no way that you can make some of these foods work inside the point system. So you go over your points and you feel like you failed. Or if you do make it work and you have like a donut and that's say 12 points, it's half your points for the day, that's a very hard place to live. So then you're going to be starving, you're going to be hungry, you're going to feel super restricted. So that way, like a cheat meal or a cheat snack is going to make you feel super defeated. And then that's obviously not what I want you to go. So the best thing to do is have a really good relationship with that food. But this is another thing. Is it a cheat meal? Is it a cheat day? Is it a cheat weekend? Is it a cheat month? Is it a cheat season? What a lot of us will do is, like, oh, I'm just gonna snack on this. Like I can have a cookie, and then that one cookie makes you feel guilty, and then the rest of your day you're off. Or you go to breakfast and you have like, I don't know, the breakfast platter that you want, and then that one cheat meal turns into the rest of the day is like, fuck it. And we can't have like days on end where we just say, fuck it, I don't know what to do. I'm like up in the air. I feel defeated. I've lost. I'm a loser. I can't do this thing. If you do that on like a lot of people do that on Friday night, and then they're like, well, I'm just gonna, I went out last night. I had what I want. I'm just gonna have whatever I want for breakfast, and then it's gonna bleed into lunch of Saturday and dinner of Saturday, and then, well, what's the point of it? I'm gonna get back on Monday. So then that turns into, 3 days of overdoing calories and feeling defeated and lost on your journey. So then, in a perfect world, even if you eat perfect Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if it leads you to falling off every weekend, that's not a good relationship with food or those meals that are kind of kicking you off, quote unquote. Because even if you have 4 days perfect, 3 days off, you're never going to be moving in the direction that you want to be. So that's always like a very scary place to be for me, because you're just on this never-ending cycle of on again, off again situations. So that comes back to like, what are you cheating on? In a perfect like version, I've also heard people say, this isn't a cheap meal, it's a treat. Cool. I like that because it's a positive thing. You should be able to have treats every day. Like I have kids, I have chocolate all over the house, I have like donuts, I have different things. I have to make it work in my plan. Otherwise, I'm just at the whim of if my 2 or 4 year old want to have a snack. Right. Like I'm not always going to say no to it. And that depends on the time and the season that you're in, on what you should be doing. So if you feel like it's going to ruin your progress, if you have and you're like, what's the point? and you're like, I want this because I feel like I haven't had anything that I enjoy lately. I'm coping with my stress with that. I'm coping with my emotions with food. Those are all things that I want you to kind of get away from. But at the same time, you're not going to go overboard if you're allowed to have these things more often. So this is how we look at it. Basically, I want you to think that you can make anything work, right? Like calories drive everything. So if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose weight. Yeah, there's some things that might cause inflammation and cause more stress on your body, might make it harder. But if your goal is weight loss, being in a calorie deficit drives fat loss or drives weight loss. Okay. So anything can work. You could have 1,400 calories of, ice cream every day if you're not lactose intolerant. And if that puts you in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. And then, like, the research is out there, it's studied, it's proven, it's not ideal. They had a guy that ate in a calorie deficit and he ate McDonald's every day and he lost a significant amount of weight and actually improved his blood markers. So there's, it's proof that it's possible. It doesn't make it ideal. So what I always like to do is, like, how can you have a little, like, a big philosophy that we have is, have what you want and then add what you need. So if you want a donut, maybe like have, a donut, but also this is a me thing, is I love donuts. I had donuts for my wedding. Instead of a wedding cake, we had donuts. And I love Bavarian cream filled chocolate long johns. That's my thing. And if it's not even fresh, I don't even want it really. Like I don't like I would never have just like a donut hole right now. If it was in front of me, like I don't want just like a dry donut hole. That's not what I want. I'm gonna have exactly what I want. So it's either like a hell yeah or a no thanks situation. Like same thing with ice cream. Like I'm not just gonna snack on some vanilla ice cream because I want ice cream. It needs to be like Moose Traps, or it needs to be like really good, the thing that I actually want. So then I can have it and then I can make it work. And I'm getting more out of it. So I'm not ever going to be a fan of a binge restrict lifestyle. So if you're living super restricted with things and like have to eat on a list or eat a meal plan, and then you go 100% off the rails for a meal or a day, they actually, I used to live this way a lot. And this is kind of what kept me stuck for almost a decade. I was following a diet called the slow carb diet for a long time, where you slow digesting carbs throughout the day. And what he actually recommend, this is coming from a biohacker. What he would do is he would have a cheat meal on Saturday or Sunday. And the goal of his cheat meal was to eat as much as possible and pretty much everything that he felt like he was restricting from. And it did two things. One, it made him feel like he could have anything that he wanted, but two, subconsciously, you feel so bad afterwards. Your digestion's so jacked up. You feel so physically bad from eating that much food. You're tired. You're lethargic for several days. You can't wait to get back onto your plan because when you're eating well, you feel better. You have better digestion. You have better bowel movements. You have more energy throughout the day. You don't need a nap all the time. So like he used the cheat meal to just emphasize how bad you feel when you eat those foods. So he would take it to the extreme. That is a process, it's a thought. But if you kind of continue to go down there, then you're consciously choosing to feel worse all the time. And that's never where I want you to be either. So I would rather have you heal your relationship with food. Have a plan in place that allows you to enjoy foods as often as you need to be able to still hit your calorie goal, because again, calories drive fat loss and weight gain. So if you can make, like if you get to a place where you want chocolate and you have like a little chocolate every night, like no big deal. Well, if you have to leave like 600 calories out of your 1,800 calorie meal, well, it's just going to be harder to do it because you're going to be hungry, you're going to be full. Sorry, you're going to be starving because they're just calorie dense foods that most people want. A lot of people will blame it on carbs when in fact it's the combination of carbs and fats that make it so calorie dense and so hyper palatable that it's very hard to shut down. So like another challenge is like if your cheat meal is things like chips, well, chips are hyper palatable. It's very hard to have just like a single serving and then feel full from it and not want to go back and have more. They're like literally chemically engineered for you to go back and eat more and more and more. That's why I just don't have those foods in the house, or I really try to avoid them, like things like Fritos for me, like where I can't just go and have like a single serving of Fritos and be good. Like I always want more afterwards. So for me, it challenges a little bit. But what I like to do is, I like tracking because you have ultimate awareness around where you're at. Well, you can have a plan untracked meal. It's part of the plan. I'm going to have this dinner out with my fiance, my wife, my husband or whatever. I'm going to go enjoy it. I'm not like, you don't need to overdo it then, because it's just like it's part of your plan to untrack, not have a tracked meal, and then you're back to it on like for breakfast the next day. So you're not falling off for long periods of time. So having planned untracked meals, vacations, trips like that are totally fine. The goal is always to get back on your plan, which serves you, makes you feel good. Diet breaks are fine. You know, like for me, like I got obsessive over tracking for the past 8 weeks that I've been in a deficit. Well, this last weekend, I just decided not to track and just take a break from it. And like, it's fine. Like there's no harm, no foul. I did overdo it one day and like, I'm back at it now, but like it kind of got out of my system and like, all right, cool. Now I know why I'm not seeing the success that I want. I'm going to hit 27 on the next 31 days of my calorie deficit. And then I'm going to be done at the end of March. So, stressing about donuts, meal out, snacks with all your kids all the time, that's not okay. So I don't want you feeling stressed about this food and gives you anxiety and makes you feel some negative way about like you and yourself. Like you guys have control. You're all adults. You can make the decisions. Is it harder? Yeah. Well, if you look at it the place way of like, I can never have this again. Well, all of a sudden I want it. If I go and tell you, like, here's the list of foods that you can have, and donuts aren't on it, you're like, well, now I want a donut because you just mentioned it. So like, oh, cool. Like if you can make a donut work in your calories, that's totally fine. But if you can't, you also have to be okay. Like, all right, I can't make it work. Like it's super hard in those days. I'm gonna say no during this fat loss phase, during this weight loss phase. All right, during your maintenance phase, it might be easier to make it up. So like I always, make sure where you're at. And if you're unsure about that, that's the first thing that I would really want you to kind of get out of this. So big thing is I want you to be able to find balance. That's where this all comes down to, is you have all the confidence in the world that you can show up and you can have what you want and you can make it work in your calories. That's a very cool place to be. Like I could almost get you to a place where, you're using those added calories at the right timing to serve a purpose. Back end loading your carbs can actually shut down cortisol and make you fall asleep better and stay asleep more efficiently. Eating around your workouts can actually fuel for your workouts and make your workouts more productive, feel better. So you can actually use those carbs. Like right now there's people eating like Sour Patch Kids at the gym for like a glucose spike. They're power lifters, but again, it always is taken out of context. Like, oh, the best shape in the world, they're eating gummy bears. Cool. Yeah, you can make it work. That's totally fine. But you shouldn't be stressing all the time. So big picture, if you guys have any questions, make sure you drop them in the chat here. But the big thing when it comes to cheat meals is, why do you need it? And if you can't tell me definitively like why you need it, you probably shouldn't have it, right? Like you shouldn't be like leaning on it all the time. If you want to have those foods in your life because you miss them and they serve you and you have a good memory with them, there's a time and a place for it. It's probably not every day, just because like you're coping with emotions through food. And I would rather have you cope with emotions through like work than food. So you're not, leaning on the whims of how you feel with, what you're going to fuel your body with. So I hope this helped. If you guys do need that step to find balance, all you got to do is reach out, message me on Facebook or Instagram, or, if you have my email, feel free to email me back. Or email what you're struggling with, what you want to put in. If you don't know where your calories are, I have a super simple document that all you got to do is ask for to find your calories efficiently. And then you can see very clearly if you can make it work, because I don't think there's ever a time where bringing attention to those things is inappropriate. Create extreme awareness around what you want, what you can have, and like make it work. That's always a really cool place for me. I hope this helps for you guys. I want to take the people that asked for it. In the meantime, if you do need anything, I'm always here.